Hello, my dear friends, and welcome back to our channel Mysterious Untold Books. Introduction. What does it take to create something truly new in today's world? This question lies at the heart of Peter Thiel's exploration of innovation and entrepreneurship. While most businesses focus on incremental improvements, going from 1 to N by copying what works, Thiel argues that true value comes from creating something entirely new, going from 0 to 1. This distinction forms the foundation of his contrarian philosophy about business and progress. The book challenges conventional wisdom about startups, innovation, and the future. It presents a framework for thinking about business creation that contradicts popular Silicon Valley methodologies like lean startup and fail fast. Instead, Thiel advocates for careful planning, monopoly building, and secret knowledge as a path to creating lasting value. Through his experience co-founding PayPal and investing in Facebook, he demonstrates how contrarian thinking, seeing value where others don't, is the true source of innovation and wealth creation in a world where technology has seemingly stagnated outside of computing. Chapter 1. From 0 to 1, The Nature of Progress. Progress can take two fundamentally different forms, horizontal and vertical. Horizontal progress means copying things that work, taking something that exists and replicating it, going from 1 to N. This is what Thiel calls globalization, spreading existing technology more widely. Vertical progress, however, means creating something genuinely new, going from 0 to 1. This is true technological innovation, and it's much harder to visualize because it requires doing something nobody has done before. The distinction between these two types of progress is crucial for understanding our economic future. Since 1971, Thiel argues, we've experienced rapid globalization with only limited technological development, mostly confined to information technology. While computers have advanced exponentially, progress in other areas like transportation, energy, and medicine has been comparatively slow. This matters because globalization without new technology is ultimately unsustainable. Simply spreading existing modes of production worldwide will lead to resource depletion and environmental catastrophe. Startups are the ideal organizational structure for creating vertical progress, because they allow a small group of people to think from first principles rather than being constrained by existing conventions. Large organizations move slowly and resist innovation, while individuals working alone lack sufficient resources. A startup, defined as the largest group of people you can convince of a plan to build a different future, provides the optimal balance of resources and agility to create something new. Contrarian thinking is essential to this process. When everyone believes the same things, what Thiel calls conventional wisdom, there's little opportunity for breakthrough innovations. The most valuable companies are built by founders who see truths that others miss. As Thiel provocatively asks, what important truth do very few people agree with you on? Answering this question is the first step toward creating something genuinely new, going from 0 to 1 rather than 1 to N. Chapter 2. Monopoly versus competition. The core business model. In stark contrast to conventional economic thinking, Thiel argues that competition is destructive, while monopolies drive progress. Under perfect competition, companies produce undifferentiated products, prices are driven down to marginal cost, and profits approach zero. These businesses are so busy fighting for daily survival that they can't plan for the future or invest in ambitious innovation. Airlines exemplify this problem. Despite creating enormous value for society, they capture almost none of it, earning mere pennies per passenger mile. Monopolies, on the other hand, own their markets and can set their own prices. This generates profits that enable long-term thinking and investment in research and development. Google dominates search with over 60% market share, allowing it to earn extraordinary profits that fund ambitious projects from self-driving cars to life extension research. Contrary to static economic models, Creative monopolies drive progress by giving innovators the incentive and resources to build new things that benefit society. The tension between these models creates a curious dynamic where both monopolists and competitors lie about their status. Monopolists downplay their dominance by defining their market broadly. Google is just one technology company competing in the global market, while competitors exaggerate their uniqueness by defining their market narrowly. We are the only British Korean fusion restaurant in downtown Palo Alto. Recognizing this pattern helps identify which companies actually possess monopoly characteristics. True monopoly shares several key characteristics: proprietary technology that is 10x better than alternatives, network effects that increase value as more people use the product, economies of scale that allow fixed costs to be spread across increasing production, and strong branding that creates emotional connections with customers. Companies like Amazon demonstrate how to build monopoly strategically. Start by dominating a small market, online bookstore, then expand to adjacent markets, and finally to the broader vision, Earth's largest store for everything. The path to monopoly requires avoiding competition. Rather than disrupting existing markets and inviting immediate competition, successful startups should focus on creating and dominating new markets where they can be the last mover, the company that makes the final great development in a particular space and enjoys years or decades of monopoly profits. Chapter 3: Definite Optimism and the Power of Planning. Our relationship with the future can be categorized along two axes: definite versus indefinite, and optimistic versus pessimistic. Thiel argues that America has shifted from definite optimism, 1950s-1960s, to indefinite optimism, 1980s present, with profound consequences for innovation and progress. Definite optimism, the belief that the future will be better because we plan and work to make it so, powered America's greatest achievements, from the Manhattan Project to the Apollo program. Today's indefinite optimism, believing the future will be better but without concrete plans, has produced a culture that values optionality over commitment. College students pursue diverse resumes rather than specific expertise. Finance attracts top talent because it offers maximum flexibility without requiring definite views about the future. Politicians rely on polling rather than articulating bold visions. The result is a society that lacks the conviction necessary for ambitious technological progress. This shift is reflected in our contrasting attitudes toward different time horizons. Companies focus on quarterly results rather than decade-long research projects. Government prioritize entitlement spending, indefinite transfers, over infrastructure, definite investment. Even in biotechnology, researchers rely on random trilander approaches rather than developing comprehensive theories of biological systems that could guide more directed innovation. The alternative to indefinite thinking is to embrace definite planning. Steve Jobs exemplified this approach at Apple, designing not just beautiful products but a comprehensive business system with multi-year roadmaps. When he returned to Apple in 1997, the company was near bankruptcy after years of professional management focused on incremental improvements. By 2011, his definite vision had transformed Apple into the world's most valuable company through revolutionary products like the iPod, iPhone, and iPad. Definite planning doesn't mean claiming perfect foresight. It means taking responsibility for creating the future rather than waiting for it to emerge randomly. As Thiel puts it, a startup is the largest endeavor over which you can have definite mastery. By rejecting the indefinite mindset and embracing specific, ambitious plans, entrepreneurs can build companies that create new technologies and shape the future rather than merely reacting to it. Chapter 4: The Power Law, Secrets, Scale, and Value Creation. The Power Law, the principle that a small number of things radically outperform all others, governs much of the business world, particularly venture capital and startup outcomes. In a typical venture fund, the single best investment will outperform the entire rest of the portfolio combined. PayPal and Palantir, Two companies Thiel co-founded exemplify this pattern. Each has returned more value than all other investments in their respective funds. This extreme distribution contradicts our intuition that outcomes should follow a normal bell curve. Understanding the power law changes how we should think about business strategy. For venture capitalists, it means only investing in companies that could potentially return the value of the entire fund. For entrepreneurs, it means that differences between companies dwarf differences between roles within companies. Owning a small percentage of a truly exceptional company is far better than owning 100% of a merely good one. And for individuals planning careers, it means focusing intensely on the few things where you can be truly exceptional rather than diversifying your skills. Our educational system trains us to ignore power laws by emphasizing well-roundedness and treating all subjects as equally important. Universities encourage students to pursue diverse interests rather than developing singular expertise. But in a world governed by power laws, this approach is misguided. The most successful people are those who identify their unique strengths and double down on them rather than trying to eliminate weaknesses. The power law also explains why seemingly small markets can produce enormously valuable companies. When Facebook started, the market for Harvard students who wanted to connect online seemed tiny. But by dominating the small market and expanding strategically, Facebook accessed much larger opportunities. The lesson is that entrepreneurs should start with small markets they can dominate completely rather than attacking large markets where they'll face immediate competition. Perhaps most importantly, the power law principle applies to our individual lives and choices. Every person is an investor, of time if not money, and we should allocate our limited resources to activities and relationships that have the potential for exceptional outcomes. This doesn't mean making reckless bets, but rather identifying the few areas where we can create unique value and focusing relentlessly on those opportunities rather than spreading ourselves thin. Chapter 5: Foundations and Culture: Building Enduring Startups. The earliest decisions in a startup's life have disproportionate importance because they establish patterns that are extremely difficult to change later. Thiel calls this the founding moment, comparing it to the first moments of the universe or the Constitutional Convention, a brief period when fundamental rules are established that will govern everything that follows. Getting these foundations right is essential because a startup built on flawed foundations cannot be fixed. The first critical foundation is the founding team. Co-founder relationships are like marriages, and founder conflicts can be as destructive as divorces. Thiel emphasizes that founders should have a history together before starting a company. Otherwise, they're rolling dice. Complementary skills matter, but alignment on values and vision matters more. The team should be small enough to work effectively. Ideally 3 to 5 people, but capable enough to execute on ambitious plans. Ownership, possession, and control form the second crucial foundation. Ownership refers to who legally owns equity. Possession means who operates the company day-to-day. And control refers to who governs through the board. When these 3 functions are misaligned, as in public bureaucracies where citizens theoretically own but have no real control, dysfunction follows. In startups, keeping the board small, 3 to 5 people, helps maintain alignment between founders' vision and investor interests. Compensation structures represent another vital foundation. Thiel argues that cash is the enemy of commitment. High salaries encourage short-term thinking and status preservation rather than long-term value creation. He recommends keeping CEO salaries below $150,000 regardless of prior compensation history. Equity compensation aligns everyone toward building future value, though it must be allocated carefully to avoid resentment. The goal is to create a structure where everyone is working toward the same long-term objectives. Company culture emerges organically from these foundations rather than from superficial perks. Thiel describes the PayPal Mafia, the extraordinarily successful group of PayPal alumni who went on to found companies like LinkedIn, YouTube, and Tesla, as evidence that strong cultures transcend individual companies. The most effective cultures are neither the extreme dedication of cults nor the transactional relationships of consulting firms, but something in between, a tribe of like-minded people united by shared mission and complementary skills, each focused on their unique contribution to collective success. Chapter 6: Distribution, Sales, and the Hidden Art of Growth. Distribution, everything it takes to deliver a product to customers, is systematically underrated, particularly in Silicon Valley where engineers prefer building products to selling them. This blind spot stems from our cultural bias against salespeople, whom we view as manipulative middlemen. The reality, however, is that all valuable products require effective distribution strategies, and the best distribution often works by being hidden. The most successful salespeople don't look like salespeople at all. Politicians are selling themselves, investment bankers are selling companies, and advertising executives are selling attention, but none use sales in their job titles because nobody wants to be reminded they're being sold to. This disguise is necessary because sales works best when invisible, like Tom Sawyer convincing his friends to pay for the privilege of whitewashing a fence. Distribution strategies exist on a spectrum based on product price and customer concentration. At one extreme, complex sales involve multi-million-dollar deals requiring CEO involvement and months of relationship building, the approach used by companies like SpaceX and Palantir. At the other extreme, viral marketing creates self-perpetuating growth through product usage, as when PayPal users sent money to non-users, automatically inviting them to join. Between these extremes lie personal sales, for deals in the $10,000 to $100,000 range, and traditional marketing and advertising for low-price consumer products. The power law applies to distribution as well. For any business, one channel will typically dominate all others. The most common mistake is trying to use multiple distribution channels without perfecting any single one. Startups should identify the most promising channel for their specific product and focus exclusively on making it work before attempting others. This focus is particularly important because distribution costs often determine which business models are viable. Products priced between $1,000 and $10,000 frequently struggle because they're too expensive for traditional marketing but too cheap for dedicated salespeople. Distribution isn't limited to selling products to customers. It also includes selling your company to employees, investors, and the media. Even if your product has viral distribution, you still need a deliberate PR strategy to attract talent and capital. The fundamental lesson is that everybody sells something, whether they acknowledge it or not. If you don't see any salespeople in your organization, you are the salesperson. Chapter 7: Man and Machine, Complementarity, Not Replacement. The relationship between humans and computers is widely misunderstood. Many people fear that advanced technology will eventually replace human workers entirely, a fear that has intensified as computers master increasingly sophisticated tasks like chess, jeopardy, and driving. However, Thiel argues that this concern fundamentally misunderstands the nature of technological progress. Computers are complements to humans, not substitutes. The key distinction lies in the different capabilities of humans and machines. People excel at making judgments in complex situations with limited information, while computers process enormous amounts of data but struggle with basic contextual understanding. This creates the opportunity for powerful human-computer symbiosis rather than competition. At PayPal, this insight led to the development of a hybrid fraud detection system called Eiger that combined algorithmic flagging with human judgment, a system so effective that it turned quarterly losses of $29.3 million into profitability. This complementary approach contrasts sharply with the prevailing ideology in computer science, which focuses on replacing human capabilities through automation. Machine learning and big data exemplify the substitution mindset. They aim to eliminate human judgment by feeding algorithms enough data to make decisions independently. But this approach misses the more valuable opportunity to combine human and machine strengths. Watson might win at Jeopardy, but doctors who use computers to enhance their diagnostic abilities will outperform both human doctors working alone in pure AI systems. The distinction between substitution and complementarity has profound implications for business strategy. LinkedIn succeeded by enhancing recruiters' capabilities rather than trying to replace them. Palantir software helps intelligence analysts identify patterns in vast datasets that will be impossible to process manually, while preserving the human judgment needed to interpret those patterns meaningfully. These businesses create value by recognizing that the most powerful applications of technology amplify human strengths rather than rendering humans obsolete. Looking to the future, the question isn't whether artificial intelligence will replace humans, but how we can build technology that makes humans more capable. Strong AI that surpasses human intelligence in all domains remains speculative and distant. The more immediate opportunity, and the one that offers greater benefits, is to develop tools that enable people to solve important problems more effectively by combining uniquely human creativity with computational power. The companies that pursue this complementary vision will create more value than those focused solely on automation. Chapter 8. The Founder's Paradox: Leadership and Singular Vision. Founders exhibit strangely contradictory traits that defy normal distribution. Rather than falling somewhere in the middle of various spectrums, they often embody extreme and seemingly incompatible characteristics simultaneously. They can be both insider and outsider, both confident and insecure, both visionary and detail-oriented. This paradoxical nature helps explain why founders have disproportionate impact on their companies' trajectories and cultures. The mythology surrounding founders amplifies these contradictions. Media narratives tend to either lionize founders as visionary heroes or demonize them as frauds and tyrants, sometimes in rapid succession. Richard Branson cultivates an adventurous persona that enhances Virgin's brand. Steve Jobs was cast out from Apple as a volatile tyrant, only to return as its messianic savior. Howard Hughes transformed from celebrated aviation pioneer to reclusive eccentric. These dramatic narratives reflect our cultural ambivalence about exceptional individuals who don't conform to normal expectations. This founder archetype has deep historical roots. Classical mythology features figures like Romulus, simultaneously lawmaker and lawbreaker, insider and outsider, who embody the same contradictions as modern founders. Anthropologically, these figures served as vessels for public sentiment, praised in good times and blamed in bad ones. The scapegoat mechanism allowed societies to channel conflict toward a single individual who could be either worshipped or sacrificed as circumstances demanded. The practical implication is that companies benefit from having strong founders who can make authoritative decisions, inspire loyalty, and maintain long-term vision. When Bill Gates was distracted from Microsoft by antitrust litigation, the company lost its strategic direction. Conversely, Steve Jobs' return to Apple demonstrated how a founder's singular vision could transform a failing company into the world's most valuable business. Professional managers optimize existing processes, but only founders can make the bold, non-consensus decisions required for breakthrough innovation. However, the same traits that enable founders to create exceptional value also make them vulnerable to self-destruction. The danger isn't that founders will be replaced by professional managers, it's that they'll start believing their own mythology and lose touch with reality. The most successful founders maintain the delicate balance between confidence in their vision and awareness of their limitations. They recognize that while individual genius matters, lasting success comes from building organizations that amplify that genius through collaborative effort. Thank you for listening. Audiobook by Mysterious Untold Books.